Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Earth to Sky 2024 Mass Design, Construction and Performance is on. And you still have a little time to join the incoming cohort and register as classes begin on the 9th of March, I believe. And now to share some insight on it as well, we have mass maker extraordinaire Lari Richardson. And hopefully a little later in the conversation, we have practitioner in her own right as well as outgoing cohort, Shakeela Daniel. Mr. Richardson, how you do, sir?
Very well, thank you. Good afternoon. Nice to be with you.
The pleasure is mine. And you, before we started recording, you were saying that this is one in a line of cohorts that has been taking place. But I want to start off, please, in terms of getting an idea what the course is about. That's one, and also why did you decide to be part of it?
Yeah, well, I have been working in that field of mass construction and mass production for a good many years. The opportunity arose because of past projects that I had done with Roll Gibbons and a body of Kunli Makemba, Makemba Kunli, Turnish, Raymond. All of us have had instances where we did projects together and stuff like that. So I felt quite at home to be working alongside them. Not to mention Valentine Jerry, who is the coordinator of the program, and who brings both his practice and his experience to helping young people. When I mean young, I don't mean by age, I mean in terms of their knowledge and experience into that arena of mass making. And it's always a pleasure to me because I get to see what is the next horizon in the production of mass. So, you know, for many reasons, I'm always open to contributing as much as I can to the process.
And one of the things that I want to ask about, and I see, yes, we have Miss Daniel joining us, but even before we bring you into the conversation, Miss Daniel, how is it, Mr. Richardson, is one thing to know and to be able to do for yourself, but it's another to be able to teach, because that feels as though it's another level of knowledge to be able to have this information that you have and basically kind of initiate, as you were saying, the young ones, the ones who have less experience. So what is that experience like for you in terms of taking your knowledge and sharing it?
Well, because of the project, the program is a level 2 course that is in affiliation with the National Training Agency, which provide a certificate for the people who complete the course, known as a CVQ, and which is a Caribbean vocational qualification. Now, what we aim to do in the program is to try and observe and promote certain competency levels, certain skills that we think are necessary to be part of the carnival and mass making industry. And the requirement as such is really not necessarily associated with academic levels, but more to do with practical knowledge. And as you know, in Carnival, there are several streams that lead towards that competency of bringing a band, bringing an individual, or designing and making a costume. And so that we find that people come from all skills and all types of personal experience in either as a viewer of the mass over years, um, or related to somebody who is very competent at making mass, and therefore they've accrued all these skills, maybe not knowing their value, not knowing how important they are, and how accomplished they are, you know? And so we take the long road, you know. We try and do for the whole entire year from now until next carnival, um, to build what will be their accomplishment, and a review of what they're able to do in that period of time.
And I'm really
You
glad you
know?
talk about taking that long road. And as Miss Daniel is taking your device and shifting it so we get a little horizontal video instead of vertical, I'm going to ask the next question. Because even like I appreciate the fact that you talk about the CVQ, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, but also taking that long road. So it's not kind of shortchanging the process, because sometimes
Right.
people are looking forward to this piece of paper. But let me
Yeah.
ask one of the persons who is going to be finishing the cohort. So, Ms. Daniel, welcome to the conversation. You're already involved in maths to some level. You let us know about that. But why decide, okay, well, this is Earth to Sky 2023 was something that you wanted to be a part of?
Okay, so my experience, I learned from the practical side of building costuming and doing the maths, you know. Over the years, the traditional arts have really captured my fascination and imagination. And I love the mere fact that it's our culture and that we should know more about it. More should be taught in even in schools for that fact. And so when I heard about the course, actually my dad was in a meeting with Lari Richardson and Roll Gibbons, about his input into the culture over the years, and that they wanted him on board as being one of the greater um, and older and wiser mass men in the fraternity. And I overheard the conversation about the course, and I was like, I want to embark on this journey where I could learn everything I know about the traditional arts and culture in traditional mass. And this was actually one of the best put together courses that I could imagine being hands-on in Carnival. So with that, my fascination behind Larry and Roll, I was like, okay, let me give it a try. Let me register and see what it's about. A whole entire year with them filling my head with knowledge. I am on board for that because I want to learn everything I possibly can. And within that, I would not say it wasn't challenging because it did throw me all the way back to the basics in design knowledge that I would not have been privileged to have learned because of my practical side. And it just kept my imagination and it kept my fascination how much more there was to learn in the process of arts and math design. You know, the basic things that we'll overlook is what they get down to the nitty gritty and explain. And this is what sparked my curiosity and really made me want to apply myself to this course to be able to learn and interact and even teach on some levels because the students all have new innovations. Everybody comes from an innovative aspect. So what you may know, I may not know, and I want to know everybody's what everybody knows. So it was a good sell for me. And it is still a good sell because I would encourage anyone to take part in it. It is really a really valid course in math design and construction.
Sound like you're in it to win it, Ms. Daniel. And one of the things that I like is that you're saying that it reminds me of something that I say sometimes about my favorite teachers. They didn't necessarily give me all the answers, but they fat up my head with questions and had me searching and trying to work out. And I like that fact that you talk about everybody comes to the table with something. No one is just devoid of ideas. And that is something that we are going to go a little further down that rabbit hole when we come back from this break. Stay with us. We are speaking with Shakeela Daniel and Lari Richardson, otherwise known as Lari Richardson, about Earth to Sky 2024 Mass Design Construction and the Performance. Welcome back. We are speaking about the Earth to Sky 2024 cohort, Mass Design, Construction, and Performance. We're doing so with Lari Richardson, Mass Man Extraordinaire, as well as Shakeela Daniel, someone who said she came in from the practical side, but all the nitty-gritty she went down in. But I see behind you, I see in Dragon Head, I see in Bookman, I see in all kind of things. But what were some of those nitty-gritty things that you said, okay, well, I may have this piece of experience, but in terms of like those fine little pieces that just helped your game to go that much further, what were some of them, Shakeela?
Okay, so to begin with, I am from a math background, so I have been involved in math my entire life. I creep and walk through math design. However, when I learned to really design was I took the skills that I already had and I took it to a math camp and learned what they had to offer. They learned from the practical side where the designer would have his knowledge of certain things, how it works and how to construct it. And being a line production person, you would just learn tricks and trades, tricks in the trade, basically. So you learn how to do certain things, but you don't really get the knowledge as to why you do it that way. And so when I am back on this course, Larry and Roll throw me all the way back to the color wheel. That was one of the biggest things for me because I learned to go to the stores and see what the stores have and see the basic colors. They have red, yellow, green, blue, purple, gold, silver, and you work with that. Larry then taught us to go all the way back to the color schemes and to learn what colors, marinate well with what colors and using the color wheel, how to match colors to get, the best out of your design in the best mix, you know. And yes, it's true that, maybe you might go by the color wheel and you would not be able to get the exact shade or tone that you wanted for your design. But that's one of the major things that blew my mind because the color wheel has so many combination of colors that you could really apply this so that when you can, as we say in math, you get anti, you get tanti. And you will be able to match your colors and get the best out of whatever your idea is that you want to produce. And for me, that was one of the major things because I had never known about designing with a color wheel. And I mean, yes, they may teach these things in design school when you're learning to paint and draw, but it is really valid when you come to doing mass designs as well, because it all goes back to the type of materials you have, the color combinations, and what your design that you want to put out there, how bold, how vibrant, how you're going to win. You're building a costume to win. You're not building a costume for show. You're building the costume for show, yes, but you're building it to win. And these little things would have, so that's one aspect of it. That's just color. They would have taught me little tricks, the correct way to tie wire, which I didn't know. Being coming from a wire bending background, I didn't know the correct way to tie wire. I always know tie different types of ways, like different types of tapes and stuff. But they would have shown me the long time way of doing it, the traditional aspect of doing it. And even now, I would find that is even easier than trying to tie it together with man-made materials. So there's a lot of aspects of the design course that they taught me that I could have implemented in my this year designs and not just for the costume, for the final product or the end of term presentation. So every term with Caribbean Yard campus, but overall, because when I bring my band now, this year I implemented all the things that I would have learned along the way from this course, and that made me very successful at the end of it all. So it is really a valid course, and I will encourage anybody to take part in it and build on their skills, because that's what it does. It's the things that you don't have, the ideas you don't have, how to do this and how to do that. They give you simple but yet efficient information that you could now apply to your designs to take it to that level that you wanted to go at. And that was most important to me. This is the most I got out of this.
And this reminds me of a
Out of this course.
conversation that we would have
Those
had
little
with
nitty.
First Citizens Jab. But I see in a smile, Mr. Richardson, Mr. Larry. I don't want to interpret that smile. Let me. What do you feel when you hear what it is Miss Daniel say?
Well, Miss Daniels is one of those few exceptional energies that always allows you, as somebody who's trying to facilitate a process, trying to share your knowledge, that makes it a dream. So it's like we were more collaborators than student and facilitator. It was a joy to collaborate with her on so many levels, but it was also a joy to see the end results. What she produced at the end of each cycle. I remember that she did a headpiece, like for one of the first assignments, that had fruits and interesting plaid materials that had kind of like a Martinican kind of Belle Queen finish. And it was to involve using cardboard as a material and using traditional materials that sometimes are cheaper than the materials that you have to go and buy in the store or whatever it is. She gifted it to us. We still have it there as a kind of a little momentum and souvenir of how dedicated she was to doing the work. Because that is always the thing. There is always more work than you think there is.
And there's always more to talk about than we have time. So in terms of like the minute and a half that we have, give us a little idea of some of the things that will be offered over the 3 semesters. Thank you.
Right. Well, so we begin with very fundamental, very foundational types of theoretical information, and we get you into practical exercises from day one. And we move from getting you to go through the process of producing a costume to then designing and creating a costume in the second semester related to a specific emancipation theme. Having done that, the third semester brings us into a production for on the road, for performing and making the finished item on the road. So all of those ingredients are covered throughout. Along the way, we deal also with the business aspects of Carnival. We deal with the copyright issues. We deal with the traditions, the Caribbean nature of our cultural roots, and how that impacts your process, your design, and your work.
And I think some of the other things that are impacted are, and we see in this even by some of the collaborators you have in terms of National Training Agency of Trinidad and Tobago, National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago Cooperatives Division, as well as the Ministry of Labor and Small and Micro Enterprise Development. Once again, reminding that this is CVQ You're getting a CVQ at the end in terms of the Caribbean vocational qualification. And speaking at the end, I want to thank you very much because we've come to the end of the conversation. Always more things to talk about than time. But Lari
So please,
Richardson and
register
Shakeela
as soon
Daniel,
as
it was a
possible.
pleasure. And thank you very, very much. And on behalf of the entire news team at TTT, this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining us.